What they know about them Texas boys.
You're listening to the most dangerous show in Texas.
When they're not covering the sports world, they're talking about the world of professional wrestling.
It's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Now, with Justin Simmons, here's Stu Myrick.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We're taking over again.
They really need to lock their door.
I know, they really do.
I don't know why they don't lock the studio.
Eddie's got to lock this. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with Eddie and Jordan. They don't lock things. But yes, it is another 2-hour Fight Night Takeover super show that we get to do here on the Horn. So Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons, as I mentioned, and we're going to kick things off big time because it is a 2-hour super show. So who more super to bring on than the man in charge of the Busted Open Nation, celebrating 11 years. You hear him on SiriusXM Fight Nation Mondays through Friday with Busted Open, with the whole cast of characters, our good friend Mark Henry and Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray. The man that set the table for us, Dave LaGreca. Happy 11th anniversary to Busted Open.
Thanks, boys. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing well. How are you? How are things with you and Violetta and the whole family up there in the Northeast?
Everyone's good. I was just thinking that as you were doing that introduction, the last time I spoke to you guys was probably just before all this stuff happened. So this is the first time that I've been talking to you since we're all under quarantine and this pandemic has hit. But thank you for asking. Our family's doing fine. We're just probably annoying the hell out of each other right now and bumping into one another. But other than that, everything is good.
Well, good. I was thinking about that today, your 11th anniversary. I was blessed enough, and you were so kind to include me at the 10th anniversary party last year in New York, where just an incredible time, and seeing all the guests and everything, and 11 years. I mean, has it hit you yet that you like I said, you set the table for guys like us and for other shows? The fact that you've been on for 11 years, you become one of the absolute staples of SiriusXM. Just reflect on that for a moment.
Yeah, today was a bit of a surreal day because, like you said, our 10-year anniversary party last year was, in front of, 650 fans. And this year I'm doing the show in my living room, talking to everybody on the computer. So it was a little different. But no, seriously, the fans were absolutely great today with the phone calls into the show and, everybody on social media. And I really appreciate that. And it's great to the kind words you just said about, I kind of set the table. I've been hearing that a lot as well. I've been a guest on quite a number of shows over the last week or two, and hearing that, it just makes me very proud of what we've accomplished over the last 11 years, and I'm very thankful for the platform of SiriusXM to do the show. So I've been reflecting a lot over the last 24 hours, and I'm very, very thankful that I have the show, because it's, a lot of people have been saying it's been an escape for them, but it's been a really good escape for me every day to be able to do the show. So I'm very thankful for it.
Absolutely. I mean, you and Doug Morton, just outstanding job creating it and then carrying it through you with the cast of characters. So hoping for many, many more years of Busted Open on SiriusXM. So
can I ask you, David, when you started this whole run, what were your expectations going into it? Because uncharted waters, so to speak, to be given this huge platform. But can you reminisce? I know you've been doing it on your own, but kind of bring our listeners in to how everything was happening before year one, prior to jumping on Sirius? Like, what was going through your head at that time?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because, you think back 11 years ago, there wasn't really the podcast, obviously, that we see right now. I don't know if there was any podcasts, 11, 12 years ago, especially 12 years ago when I really started to pitch this show. It took a long time to get it up and running. And Doug Mortman, who was my original co-host, he believed in the show as an executive. And it was tough because, as you guys know, pro wrestling doesn't really get the respect that it deserves. And it was definitely like that, over a decade ago. And I was just happy to get the show on the air one day a week for an hour. To me, goal achieved, just to be able to do this show for one day a week. And just the popularity grew. I was an employee at SiriusXM, so I worked on the NFL channel already at that time for over 5 years. And it's just something I pitched because of my love and passion for pro wrestling. And I thought it would be a perfect fit for Sirius because Sirius has a lot of niche programming. So I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a perfect marriage. I was given the opportunity, and it's because of the fans that we were able to grow to, one day a week for an hour to now 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. I mean, it's a true blessing, but I owe it all to, the popularity of the show, to the fans, and just how the popularity of pro wrestling has grown. Pro wrestling was in a really rough place 11 years ago. It wasn't nearly as popular as it is now, especially with the mainstream. And I've actually been able to watch it grow. And Stu knows this. Like, I love, promoting the wrestling community. So, I will always promote other podcasts, other shows, everything, because I just feel like we're in this fight together. So the stronger the community is, the more opportunities it's going to be for other shows to kind of join the community. So it's something that I've really stressed over the last 11 years.
Yeah, it's a fantastic relationship. I mean, you've had me on your show several times, and I couldn't be more grateful. So, again, we hope there's going to be many more years of Busted Open.
Yeah, it's still it's a trickle down effect because, like you and I met. You've come on the show, I've come on your show, and then you've become friendly with Mark Henry, and then you and Mark have worked together. So I really do think that, like, as big as the pro wrestling community is, it's also very small. It's a small world, and I think if we can all work together, it's just going to make our community more successful.
I couldn't agree more. It's almost like a kind of an extended family, so to speak, and luckily we get to see each other every on occasion, and it's like we've known each other for forever. So I couldn't agree more. Let's talk for a moment about the news this week. First of all, Jerry Briscoe, the longtime fantastic NWA talent, and of course, longtime talent scout for WWE. It was announced he's been furloughed.
Let me tell my generation who might not know what you're talking about. One of the Stooges.
Yes, he was one of the Stooges. But before that,
I know.
But before that, he was one half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions with his brother Jack. Just one of the best ever. So he's been furloughed. Cain Velasquez, the former UFC heavyweight champion, was released by WWE. I would think Jerry Briscoe getting released is obviously the more shocking, but give us your thoughts on those two developments this week.
Yeah, the Cain Velasquez doesn't really surprise me that much, just because since that event with Brock Lesnar in October, we haven't really seen or heard from him since then. So it's been months since he's done anything with the WWE. Briscoe is a rough one, and furloughed is, I think that they're hoping that come July that a lot of those people that they furloughed could come back to the company, and that's what I'm hoping for. And I mean, it's probably going to be a minor miracle for that to happen. The way you look at things now here in April, I don't know if 3 months from now that things are going to change that much. But they're in a very, very tough spot. As you guys know, WrestleMania was in a closed venue with no fans. The money that they must have lost from revenue of a packed stadium and merchandise and what they bring to that city. So it is tough, and changes had to be made. And, the ratings haven't really been great. We look at the NFL draft and, over 15 million people watch the NFL draft, and you see a lot of the ratings rise because people are home, but that has not happened for the WWE. The WWE is really suffering on Mondays and Fridays, and now they're back to losing to AEW on Wednesdays as well. So this has been a really rough run for the WWE. It even goes back further than to when this happened. They weren't really succeeding at a lot, and I think they had to find a way. And as you guys know, because I think the last time I came on with you guys, we talked about this, is the XFL. The XFL was a long-term project that they probably weren't going to see any money till after 3 years. And now, look at they weren't even able to complete a season. Mm-hmm. And that investment came back to bite Vince McMahon in the ass. And he might say that it's separate, but obviously we're seeing the ramifications of that right now. And a lot of good people have either been furloughed or let go right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of good talent that were released. Now, several of those talent, wanted a release. Not the best timing, but hopefully, if things can turn around, hopefully it won't be very long before we see them in a ring somewhere, whether it's AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, whatever. But it was kind of hard to hear that, and especially Jerry Briscoe, because he's been at Vince's right hand for 3 decades now, and I mean he was one of the ones. It was him and Jack that sold their share of Georgia Championship Wrestling to Vince so he could get the time slot on TBS, unbeknownst to Ole Anderson. So Jerry's had a huge hand in WWE. He's the one that found Brock Lesnar to begin with. So you wonder how much that will impact, especially with scouting talent. You wonder how much that will impact WWE going forward.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, being furloughed, you would hope that at some point he could come back, because right now, how can you scout talent? There's no talent to scout. Like, there are no events. There are no shows going on right now. So everything's kind of on pause or on stop. And Stu, it is tough because it's a bad look for the WWE, because you mentioned the talent. There was a lot of talent that wanted to be released, that asked for their release, 6 months ago, and that wasn't able to happen. And they wouldn't give a lot of these wrestlers a release that wanted to leave and find out other opportunities. And now they're given their release at a time when they can't get signed with anybody else. I mean, I'm sure a lot of this talent AEW would love, but right now they can't, because, nobody is going to spend any money right now. So it's a very, very tough time and a really bad look for the WWE.
Talk with Dave LaGreca from SiriusXM Busted Open. Find him on Twitter at David LaGreca1. I want to talk for a second about Friday night, SmackDown on Fox. They're doing this 25th anniversary of Triple H being with the company, which it seemed to fall pretty flat just to begin with. And look, I appreciate self-deprecating humor as much as anybody, but it just seemed to fall flat between him and Shawn Michaels, and then Stephanie on FaceTime, and then Road Dogg, and then Flair, and then Vince comes out, and then it just seemed like things took an absolute downward spiral. What did you make of Vince in his part in that 25th anniversary celebration?
You know what, Stu, and this is not going to be a very popular opinion, but I actually really enjoyed that last segment on Friday night, and I'll tell you why. Is that it seemed like the WWE kind of let their hair down, because if you watch SmackDown and you watch NXT and you watch Monday Night Raw, they're not acknowledging what's going on right now. And it almost feels like, all right, we're going to just continue to do what we do, even though it's not in the crowd. Like, we're really not going to let it affect what we do. We're just going to go straight forward and not make any changes. And I think it's the product has suffered because of that. I kind of like that they had that segment where you saw something different. You saw a different side. Like Triple H is going to spit out the water, and the lackey grabbed the water bottle so he couldn't spit out the water. And you had Vince McMahon come out and say, "You know what? You're killing it. This is terrible. This segment's terrible." And then the show ends with they shut off the lights and the crickets. Like Triple H is somebody that a lot of people say takes things way too serious and doesn't have a sense of humor about things. And I thought they showed a lighter side. And I think that was needed. It was a little surreal with there not being a crowd, but I at least was happy that they did something a little different, because like if you watch Raw like Monday night, I mean, geez, like they put on the show like as if there is a packed arena. And there's nobody there, and they look out to the crowd where there is none. The way they come down the entrance ramps, the fact that they're still using the microphones, that they had a contract signing in the ring instead of like in the back someplace at a desk, where it's like you don't need to have it in a ring. There's no fans. Why are you having it in the ring for? It's silly. So that's the reason I kind of like that last segment on Friday night.
Do you think it would be more interesting if they kind of went with the Vern Gagne idea from the 80s, where they tried to have it like on a green screen stage and change the background and stuff, kind of like that? Is there anything else that they can do that can make it different than what it already is?
Well, I mean, there's a few different ideas. First of all, I think the one that they're using now isn't working. A lot of people aren't watching. I think a big reason people aren't watching is because there is no crowd, there is no atmosphere, and it's really hurt them in the ratings. I mean, the ratings have been abysmal. AEW, I like what they're doing, like having their roster that is there around the ring, and they make noise. They inject some humor. I love what AEW is doing on commentary by having Shivani and Jericho. I mean, the WWE is, got its status quo. It's Phillips, it's Cole, it's Graves, it's Byron Saxton. They should try some different things. Have some Hall of Famers on commentary. Do it up a little bit different than what they're doing. And then you mentioned the green screen. I don't know if it would work or not, but maybe why not try it? Why not take a page out of the NFL's handbook and have like the pixelated fans like they had when Roger Goodell was giving the picks? Like, I'm sure a lot of fans would love that, from their home, cheering or holding up signs and stuff like that. Anything that would give it a bit of an atmosphere. AEW has some atmosphere right now, and the WWE has zero atmosphere on their shows.
Dave, the one thing I've talked about leading into WrestleMania, I'm glad you bring up the pixelated fans, and what I don't understand, because it seems if anybody could pull this off, it would be WWE. And I'm thinking if we have to go into actual sports like in the fall without having fans, like baseball, basketball, football, is there a way that they can just take noise from people that are sitting at home watching it live, just like we're having a podcast, like we're talking right now, and just kind of congeal all of those voices together over the speakers in the arena and kind of give it that fan atmosphere, although everybody's still watching it from home?
Yeah, I mean, maybe look at like the way that everyone's doing business from home now. The Zoom. I never heard of Zoom until 2 months ago. It's like now all of a sudden, like everybody's with conference calls, and like I've had meetings at work. We had a meeting, a town hall meeting, with like over 200 people in attendance in this meeting. And if everybody unmutes their mic, you would hear a bunch of noise of people talking, and why not? Anything that's going to give a little bit of normalcy, because if you have football games in an empty stadium, you're going to feel that. And in football, you might be able to get away with it a little bit more because they do kind of center on the field as opposed, but I think it would suffer. And I think why not? There's got to be a way. I mean, this is you and I just like kind of riffing off the top of our heads. But I think if people did get a little creative and try something, I think you could probably kind of simulate some noise if possible.
Yeah, you think with a company like WWE that has the resources it has, you think they could find some way of injecting some sort of, I don't know, whether it's crowd noise or the screens with, people on Zoom or whatever. You'd think they could find a way to do that and at least add a little flavor. And you're right. I think AEW, at least having some of the wrestlers in the crowd, I think that it just bumps it up so much more. Just with those few wrestlers standing on the sides, cheering, booing, what have you, and having the interactions.
But you would think that Fox would also want to be in on this, possibly trying to research and develop something that would be adequate, because they're going to have football in the fall, and this is an issue that can affect them as well. So if they can get ahead of the curve, no pun intended, this would be beneficial not only to WWE but to Fox as well.
Well, and NBC.
Yeah,
Universal,
that's a great point. I mean, you're right. Why not let Raw kind of be kind of like the testing ground for what they might be able to do come the fall, or for other sports as well, because we've seen WWE, like you said, be ahead of the curve when it comes to the streaming service, like the network. They were the first ones to have that streaming service. Now you see that everywhere with every sport. So, try it, because here's the thing, guys. Right now, it's not the way it is. Right now, it's not working. So anything that they try, I think fans will be up for. Even if it doesn't succeed, then you try something the next week. But what they have right now it just isn't working. The thuds and the echoes in that room has been sickening, and I hope they do kind of try to do something to bring kind of a human element to the shows.
Guys, I got it, Dave. You know them the best. Tell them where to send the check. But what they need to do is take those big old school Titantron screens, line the Performance Center around the ring with those, and then just throw Zoom parties, and then just periodically change out the people who are watching so we can see the faces, and they can use the jargon if they want, of the WWE universe, while including finding a way to include those speakers noise from the people that are viewing at home that might not be on the Zoom at that current time, hoping that they'll get on.
Yeah, and I think that would add excitement. I think it would add to the ratings. So like you said, people would love to be on TV, so they'll be tuning in to see if they can get on TV. And like, again, I think a good testing ground was that draft. And look at what the NFL did. If you really, I got to admire the NFL for this, because I wasn't a fan of night number one, but then you saw them kind of change things as the nights went on. And you saw Roger Goodell change. Roger Goodell looked so wooden and so uncomfortable with the suit. It was terrible. But what happened? Next night, he was like sitting in a lounge chair with a T-shirt and khakis. Mm-hmm. Like they adapted, they evolved, knowing that it didn't come off that well the first night, and they changed things a little bit. And I think that in the WWE they need to do that. And I think that like AEW, why not take a page from AEW? Why not have some of the roster around the ring making some noise, something to give a little bit of an ambiance? But I'm with you, Josh. I think that's a great idea. If you could have like a Titantron, like even at the Performance Center, have it wrapped around the ring. It's not that big. It's not, I think you can be able to do something like that, and it would really work.
I couldn't agree more. They need to get away from the paint by numbers, Raw, SmackDown, even NXT for that matter. They need to change it up. SiriusXM Busted Open is where you can hear Dave LaGreca every day on SiriusXM Fight Nation. Check him out on Twitter at David LaGreca1. Check out the show on Twitter at Busted Open Radio. Dave, as always, it is a pleasure to talk to you. All the best to you. All the best to your family. Again, we look forward to many more years of Busted Open, and we will catch up again soon.
Yeah, can I make one other plug if it's possible?
Please plug.
If go to ProWrestlingTees.com and buy a Dave LaGreca shirt. Just search Dave LaGreca.
That's right. You have your own Pro Wrestling Tees store. Yes, Pro Wrestling Tees. Search Dave LaGreca. They got some fantastic designs. I've been seeing them all over.
Stu just added to his cart right now.
Yep. We got
Please, every little bit helps.
Gotta keep you stocked in that daddy juice, right? And the daddy sodas. So, all right, Dave. All the best to you. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Anytime we get a chance to talk with David LaGreca, we love it. And 11 years Busted Open. Like I said, I've told him 1,000 times, if it wasn't for Busted Open, there wouldn't be a Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
He is the godfather.
Yeah.
Without the train.
Yeah. So he's been a good friend to us for a lot of years.
Did you get that reference?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure.
We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, another good friend joins us, Nigel Rabid, the Rabid Empire leader, will join us and tell us what he's doing, especially with SWE Fury, because he had a bone to pick about our interview with James Beard. That's coming up next. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
This is Dirty Andy Dalton, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Blah!
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. We always like to catch up with several of our friends on the independent scene. And one of those friends, probably one of our longest standing friends, joins us now on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. And we have worked with him. We have kidded with him. We've laughed with him. We've laughed at him. He's laughed at us. It is our dear friend from the Metroplex, none other than the leader of the Rabid Empire, Nigel Rabid. How are you, Mr. Rabid?
I'm doing well, but I do feel that implying that I am from the Metroplex perhaps is misleading.
Well, you're in the Metroplex area. We know.
I mean, it's not terribly Metroplexian, is it?
Well,
no.
When people hear your voice, I think they can figure out you're not exactly from the Metroplex, but you live in the Metroplex.
Some people have crosses to bear. That's just mine.
They might. So how are you doing in this very uncertain time of quarantines and face masks and social distancing?
The quarantine and the face masks are a bit new. I've never, for all of my fondness of most things, of the geek nerd culture natures, cosplay's never been something I've gotten terribly into. So it's new and exciting to wander around places with a mask on and pretend like maybe I'm sneaking into, say, like the bank to steal something, because that is often how it feels when I go to the bank wearing a Corona mask. Little bit of hold up, little bit of give me your money, little bit of, oh, this is really just my money. Oh, that's disappointing. Could I have maybe some of your money? No, you'd have to call the police. All right.
Yeah,
all right, fine.
Look, I know. Yes, you're villainous sometimes, but we don't want you breaking the law.
Well,
just in the ring, just in the ring.
Well, I mean, you have to branch out in this day and age. There's not much time in the ring these days. So
this is true.
You have to take your villainy where you can.
Right, but
just the other day, I made sure to take every one of my neighbors' lawn sprinklers and turned them all towards the front doors. That way, if they left the house violating the stay-at-home orders, they would be summarily punished by chlorinated and fluorinated waters.
Okay, that seems like a very Nigel Rabid thing to do.
I mean, evil, mischievous, but best of luck trying to prove it was me. Damn it, they're probably listening.
Well, yeah, let's not give ourselves away. The statute of limitations has not run out. Let me ask you this: you are of course an absolute authority, and you are very prevalent on the DFW independent scene. You've talked to several wrestlers up there, some of our friends up there. What's the general consensus as far as promotions, coming back? Wrestlers that are trying to make do during this downtime. What's the vibe that you get from them during this pandemic?
Well, I think all of us are stir crazy. Would be the easiest way to put it. I mean, we all want to get out there. We all want to perform. We all want to vent our nervous energies. In some cases, vent our life frustrations. That's really, in a lot of ways, what professional wrestling ends up being for a lot of us, is a wonderful way to release the pressure valve when society's evils, ills, etc. Get to be too much. I mean, we all want to, but there comes the question of timing. I think, like for example, just reading today on social media, and my friend Machiko-san, she was commenting on someone's page because someone was making, everyone's got their politicalized opinion about whatever's going on right now, and I have I think a bit more unique perspective, because while I've not lived through it, my family historically we went through when polio was a thing. As a matter of fact, my uncle, my uncle David on my father's side had polio as a child. So the closest thing to an epidemic that America's ever seen, or at least has seen in recent memory, being polio, was something that my family had to endure at the very beginning, and we really just don't have a real concept of what's a good idea. But I strayed. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No, and that's right. It's fascinating. It's fascinating because this has never happened in most everybody's lifetime. Something like this has never happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially a worldwide pandemic. There's been epidemics, and like for example, I was reading probably about 2 weeks ago now on social media. I was reading an excerpt from a note or a letter that F. Scott Fitzgerald had written to a friend or a cousin. I can't remember which it was. And he's talking about the Spanish flu epidemic that hit France, and how shops were closed and everybody was pinned into their homes, and everyone was, being, quote, very safe and of course very bored. And I mean, you stop me, think about it. When I say very bored, then I mean, the entertainment you had then was whatever entertainment you might have in your home by way of books, maybe paintings. I don't know that board games were a thing then, although, card games, I'm sure, maybe trinket games like dominoes, backgammon, things of that nature might have been about. And maybe in really well-to-do homes, the wireless, what we know today as the radio. And that was the extent. Oh, and each other, of course. And that was the extent of the entertainment that you had at home. So, really ridiculously boring.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even think there were. I mean, letters were the most common form of long distance communication. So, you didn't even have the pleasure of being able to do what you and I are doing, which is talking on the telephone and hearing each other's voices and being able to share the immediate gratification of the warmth and the friendliness and the care and et cetera, that is carried back and forth over the wireless waves now that everything is mobile. But so they had all that, and Fitzgerald's talking about the fact that everything's closed down and shops are closed, and then he goes on to start talking about Hemingway and how Hemingway believes that the Spanish flu is all a hoax. Hemingway believes that
that it's something perpetuated by the government and claiming, at the time, I think he was claiming that he had sources to prove it. And of course, Fitzgerald, as I was saying, I wonder what his sources are. But the absolute insanity that was going on then, when you can see that people were dying, and to the point where the government is calling, the government was calling it an epidemic. And it's in history books as to how bad it was, the Spanish flu, to the point where it's still I believe still to this day, one of the more virulent forms of flu. Mm-hmm. We just lucky to be able to have more inoculation against it. And you have people today doing the whole, oh no, this is nothing. We need to get back to work. We need a haircut, damn it. I want to go to the movies. All of this ridiculous, self-centered, me. I mean, at least the people who want to work, at the very least, what they want to do is try to provide for themselves and their family. But the people who are demanding, I want to go get my haircut. You want the government to open up. You're willing to risk the lives of other people until we can be positive that this quote unquote curve that we're worried about truly flattens. You're willing to risk other people so you can get a haircut. I mean, the self-centeredness of people is just staggering.
Yeah.
But to your question, Monchico-san had commented on, someone had made people just need to let people be people. People, you do you, we'll do us. You want to stay at home and cower and be afraid. Cool. That just means there's going to be less people out there going to try and take up that 25% people that's going to be inside. And Monchico, who, in between wrestling gigs, she's a bartender, and as I understand, a very good bartender in that. But her mindset was very clear in the, if we're going to have 25% of the populace going out and about, or only 25% occupancy allowed in restaurants, bars, clubs, movie theaters, gyms, etc., then for persons who subsist on tipped wages and things of that nature, they're not, what is it? It's something like 10% of people tip as it is, or at least any worth a damn, or some ridiculous number. I made that number up, to be honest, but it sounds accurate because people are selfish.
Yeah, true.
But less than 100%, probably less than 50% of the people that go out to places like restaurants, bars, etc., tip with any sense of substantiality.
Right.
So, I think that's a fair made-up fact. So you take that, less than 50%, and then you do 25%. So the mathematics of that, it's not going to be, 50% of people are going to tip. It's going to be something like 25% of the 25% that are allowed into bars or restaurants are going to tip. And Monchico very, in my opinion, very wisely made the comment of, it's not worth my health to risk it if only 25% of the people are going to be able to be in my establishment. It's not worth my health. It's not worth the risk of my health and the health of my friends. And that's really that's the mindset that so many people really need to be of. Yeah. Now, I get it. People feel that this is impinging on their basic and unalienable rights. Everybody who says that has never had their rights truly impinged upon. You don't know what it's like to be involved with a virus that can especially in places, if you notice, New York City is not clamoring, let's get back to work.
This is true. This is absolutely true. And a lot of businesses are talking about, it's not worth it. If I'm just going to have 25% of my capacity, then it's not worth it even opening. Let's wait until till more people can get out and that's going to mean we have gotten at least a grasp on this virus. So I totally understand it.
Now, I mean, all of us want to get back to work. All of us do. There is one or two very small ideas. As a matter of fact, viral pro wrestling. Have you heard of viral pro wrestling?
I think I've seen one or two things from them. Yeah, but tell everybody about it.
Viral Pro Wrestling is a company that was started. I want to say they're up in I think it's was it Minnesota? It's either Kansas or Minnesota's Kansas City, is it not? Feels right.
No, Kansas City's in Missouri.
Missouri. Ah, yes. Missouri loves company. Missouri loves company. And of course, it loves company because it's next to Kansas. And that's true Missouri. But anyway, they're up in Missouri or in Kansas City. I believe Missouri. But Viral Pro Wrestling is putting on closed shows. Kind of like what AEW and WWE is doing, but it's for independent talent. And you rent or purchase the shows at $7 a pop, and you get to enjoy it. And you've got people like Magnificent Malaco and Niles Plonke and Miranda Gordy, and I believe Dexter Hardaway is headed up that way here soon. Now we've got one or two little things like that out there in the world that are doing things for independent professional wrestling, and then of course there's the people who they've got their wrestling, ProWrestlingTees.com store sites and things of that nature. Which now, if anybody listening decides that hey, I would like to go and support this strange person from another place, because obviously he doesn't sound anything like what I'm used to for anyone living in Texas. I think I'll go look for his shop and go purchase his things online. Don't look for my things. I'm blessed right now. I have a day job that allows me to work from home. And even though I just got through a furlough, there are people who don't have anything at all. People who professional wrestling is their jobs. People like Machiko, people like Barrett Brown, Chandler Hawkins, M-Dog, Matt Cross. Mm-hmm. Go find their stores, purchase their things. You want to buy my things, buy it after the pandemic, after everything is open up. Then I'll have things, more in line then. But I'm actually making sure I don't sell anything right now, because I'm not in need. Other people are in need.
Well, and I'm glad you're not in need, but you're right. There's several of them. We try to retweet those when we see them on our Twitter. So, make sure you support them. We're talking with Nigel Rabid. Follow him on Twitter at Nigel Rabid. Nigel, I wanted to ask you, because you were talking about authors and something you've been doing here in the last several weeks on Facebook. You're doing these Facebook Lives where you're reading stories. Tell the folks about what you're doing and how they can watch you.
Well, it's called Story Time with Nigel, and it is at 8 o'clock Central every evening. And I started doing this. You're familiar with Stephen Bones Hatfield, the referee?
Yes.
Stephen had made a post online about a month and a half ago or so, where he said, this is a great time for wrestlers to look at different ways to build each other up. Do a training session online, do a exercise, do a clinic, and I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, and I posted it's like, oh yeah. How to annoy your friends and loved ones by Nigel Rabid. And we started to have a laugh about it, and a fan said, you should read stories. And at first I had a laugh about it, and then I thought about it. And just in the living room, we have these lovely bookshelves that have got some of the children's books that I read as a child, particularly a series by an author, Graham Oakley. Graham wrote this series called The Church Mouse. And it's a story about this mouse named Arthur and a church cat named Samson, who live in the Wortlethorpe Church in Wortlethorpe, England. And Arthur gets it in his head that it's awfully lonely being a solitary church mouse. Maybe I can find a way to get friends. And so he went to the parson and suggested that, we do odd jobs. And, I go collect every mouse around Wortlethorpe. And he went about and talked to a few mice, and they got their friends together, and they had a big meeting, and he laid out his plans. And then all of the mice of Wortlethorpe, England, went to go live in this church in the vestry. And they did odd jobs. And Graham Oakley is such an amazing illustrator. The stories are lovely, don't get me wrong. And the words are, it's one of those things where I read them and I look at them and I go, this was just the 70s. This was just like, maybe I think the first one was maybe in the late 60s, like maybe 68, 69, maybe at the oldest. But the rest is just, it's the 70s. And I'm reading this going, this is sound, this is intelligent, and children's books, modern children's books aren't this way. And it's kind of been one of my long-standing complaints about, how education downplays and, animation, instead of playing to a higher audience and bringing the audience up to your level, we play down to, lowest common denominator because it's easier that way. But the books are so intelligent and the wordplay is so clever. And the illustrations are so incredible that I sat there and I said, maybe I should do this. Yeah. And so I did it in the first night, which was really spontaneous. I just but here it is. I'm doing this thing. And I had about 15, 20 people, pop on and watch for some period of time. And a lot of people said, oh, you should do this more often. This was really nice. And so I did it the next night, same time, and then the next night, and then the next night. And then I came to the weekend. I said to myself, what should I do on the weekend? I don't want to always read children's books. So I said, well, read chapter books, maybe chapter books that are, still aimed at younger audience, but, still chapter books that are, that will help entertain and help enrich imagination and that sort of thing. And so I started reading. I read about 2 chapters every Saturday and Sunday of chapter books. And we just finished the Chronicles of Narnia. The last night we read 3 chapters because, it was 15, 16, 17. I was going to leave a chapter out. That's terrible. And then make us wait one week for the ending of the book. So no, I'm not that big into cliffhangers. So we did that. And we've done, we've made it through all of the Church Mice books, at least all the Church Mice books that I can get my hands on, because they are hard to find now. I've got most of them, but I'm shy about 2 or 3 of them. I can find them, but it's about a bill for at least one of them. And don't look on Amazon, because Amazon have got them 3, 4. I saw one for $800 once.
Wow.
On Amazon. Yeah. They are really, really gorgeous books and worth owning. Really, I recommend anybody who enjoys solid art and enjoys a good amount of wry humor. I cannot recommend the Church Mouse books more. You can find a few of them on, thriftbooks.com, which is where I picked up my last two at actually quite a reasonable price, given what the prices I was seeing in other places. But we've done those. We did a collection of Paddington that I was able to find before a local bookstore shut down. We read all of the Beatrix Potter Tale of books, so Peter Rabbit, Benjamin Bunny, Flopsy Bunnies, Squirrel Nutkin, which was unfortunate because it was really rather disturbing little story. No wonder there were some children that grew up a little poor, because there's really no good guy and no bad guy in that story. It's just all one of those, when you read that story, you just go, wow, this just feels like a train wreck from word go. You know, you've got a little squirrel who's just a little prat, and you've got an owl who doesn't do anything until like the very end when he tries to skin our quote hero alive. And our hero freaks out so much that he pulls part of it, he breaks his tail off, or breaks his tail in half, and runs to safety. And now he's a squirrel with a nubby tail, if that's a real thing. Right now, as a matter of fact, we're reading the works of A.A. Milne. So Winnie the Pooh, and we're doing those because I was gifted Disney's World of Pooh and a collection of Pooh stories from Disney's animated classics. And,
that's cool.
I was excited about that, but you've got that. You have access to the original work. So let's start with what originally happened, and then we'll come back later to Disney's masterpieces. But we just started that the other night, and rather delightful and a bit clever. Very interestingly enough, it's all told from the perspective of the author A.A. Milne telling a story to Christopher Robin as a child in like the parlor or something like that. And Christopher has his stuffed bear, and his stuffed bear likes to hear stories about himself. And so it's almost as if the author is making up the stories as he goes along for Christopher Robin and for the stuffed bear, whose name is Winnie the Pooh. So very lovely, very heartwarming. And really, you stop me to think about it. Today we call that very meta. Ooh, it's very meta, a story that's aware of itself. But you think about it, meta's only really become a thing over the past decade or so in a real sense of, this is what we do in storytelling now is we tell stories, and we're aware that our characters are aware that they're in a story. And that's only really become popular, maybe 5-10 years, maybe.
Yeah, but I was thinking at least at the most 10 years, and maybe probably 5. You're probably right.
And A.A. Milne was doing this in 1926. So
kind of that old what's old is new again type of deal.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah,
absolutely.
The Facebook page is Storytime with Nigel, correct?
That is correct.
Cool.
Storytime with Nigel. If you want to look for it, just via URL, I believe it's www.facebook.com/Storytime with Nigel, all one thing.
I'm looking at it right now, and it's got some really good stuff. Like you said, the World of Pooh you're doing at 8:00 on Tuesday, which we're taping this on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. You even got something here with Jeff Goldblum reading Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Dr. Seuss had posted that up, and a lot of people have taken to, because I literally started doing this the day before it started going around about LeVar Burton asking or making a comment of, I want to read stories on my podcast, but I'm really kind of concerned about copyrights, and I don't want to make any authors upset. And that's when Neil Gaiman said, LeVar, you can read every one of my books. I don't care. Go ahead, do it. And the first day of story time with Nigel was the day before all of that started getting real viral, big, because I do it one day and literally I start hearing, oh, look what LeVar's Burton. Someone literally sent me a link going, LeVar Burton's trying to steal your thing. And I went, no. If anything, I'm stealing LeVar Burton's thing. He's been reading to children since I was a child.
Yeah.
No, he's part of my inspiration. And someone, the same person later, tagged me in a tweet to LeVar Burton saying, hey, LeVar, if you ever need some help, this guy's doing the same thing. And he's doing a rather nice job of it. Which is, I got an opportunity to reply back with is, actually LeVar's part of the reason why I did it, because I grew up with him, with Reading Rainbow. And so me doing this is just kind of a carryover of what LeVar Burton was doing. Now LeVar Burton is a very busy man, so I'm sure one of his assistants told him that, someone added you, and another fellow with a weird name said that they are doing something because they liked what you did. All right, good. Yeah.
There you go.
Do you want me to like it? No, don't bother. He might follow us somewhere. He's got a strange name.
Well, I'm thrilled that you're doing it, and I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think it's a wonderful use of your time and entertaining whoever views, whether it's adults, children. I think it's fantastic.
I've gotten some very lovely comments from some families who have said that Storytime with Nigel is now a part of their daily routine for bedtime. And I've gotten some comments from some adults who say, now I don't watch it live because my bedtime isn't at 8, but I will go ahead and listen to Storytime with Nigel as the last thing I do, settle down for bed in the evening.
Yeah.
And so it's been very heartwarming to see, which is really, all I'm trying to do is what motivated me more than anything of this is I used to, when I was still with the former Mrs. Rabid, and we had regular access to my stepdaughter. One of the things I delighted in doing was reading stories to my stepdaughter, and due to the weirdness of custody battles and things of that nature. They became harder to do as she got a little bit older. But when she was younger, I used to love reading stories to her.
Amazing.
And when I was her age, my father used to read to me. And it's a tremendous expression of love, reading stories to people.
Right. Well, it's something that I don't know if it happens, not having kids myself. I don't know if it still happens, but yeah, people, men and women your age, my age, we remember those days. It was simply just to help us go to sleep, but it was always, it helped to fill, kind of foster the imagination as well.
Absolutely. And it's so difficult today for parents. I was very blessed. I had parents that had very regular routines and very regular times. Because my dad's a priest in the Episcopal Church. I had a dad at home just about every single evening at bedtime. There's kind of exceptions, but I had a dad at home to read to me every single evening. And while the demands of the priesthood can be difficult, it was very rarely so difficult that he didn't have the energy for story time. But today, in today's society, especially if you want to give your children, a nice home, a nice environment, good schools, you really have to work very hard. And mom and dad may not have the time, or more common in this day and age, mom and dad may not live together any longer. And so, mom may be working 2 jobs or dad may be working 2 jobs just to make sure that you've got a roof over your head, and they don't have the energy. And if I can help with that, it's one of the things that I kind of want to continue this even after the pandemic. I mean, I've been researching a little bit and paying attention to the fact that you can do timed live recordings, and so do a live recording and schedule it to go up. And so when wrestling starts back up again, I'm very strongly looking into continuing to do story time with Nigel at 8 p.m. So that this pattern doesn't break just because my fortunes have changed or things have been improved timeline wise for me. It'll make things entertaining next time I go to Pakistan, because then I'll have to plan out stories and record stories for a couple of days at a time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I hope you do continue it, because, as I said, I think it's a fantastic endeavor. Look for it, Facebook. Just search Storytime with Nigel, 4 words, Storytime with Nigel. You'll see his beautiful face up there, and check it out. It's a fantastic thing. Nigel Rabid, follow him on Twitter at Nigel Rabid. Nigel, you and I don't talk near enough. I have to go because we got to do more of the show. But as soon as I know it's the as bad as this may be for you. The show is. There are other people who are going to be on the show.
It just seems like a waste of your time at that point. I mean,
what now? Thunder
Rosa.
Find
anyone? Thunder Rosa is a wonderful woman. God bless her. I'm very thrilled for her. She's a tremendous performer. Is she quite as entertaining to talk to as me? I don't know. I'm not allowed to talk to her. There's a court restraint that keeps me away.
I know. As soon as this pandemic, as soon as everything gets back to where we can travel, you and I need to get together, throw back a few pints, and just regale each other in tall tales.
Absolutely. Before we go, I do very quickly need to talk about SWE Fury.
Yes,
we can talk.
Yes, please do, because I had James Beard on, who was and apparently you had a slight problem with.
He's a bully.
James Beard is not a bully.
He absolutely is. He uses his power to abuse other people. Ooh, such a bully.
James Beard saved my can a couple times up in Texoma when the Dot Mob got mad at me for no reason whatsoever.
Well, I mean, that's because the Dot Mob are, unruly hooligans. They're nowhere near as refined or as gentlemanly as the denizens of the Rabid Empire.
Gentlemanly? Charlie Haas is gentlemanly?
Absolutely, he is.
He broke Brent McKenzie's nose with a sheet pan once. That's not exactly gentlemanly.
That was a sheet pan that was required. They were hitting each other with things and stuff.
I know.
I recall.
I know. That was the match was such, but come on.
Well, let's. I mean, you can't have a. We're going to have a all implements usage match. However, you cannot use implements as that would be unsporting.
No, you use them. Just don't break the poor guy's nose.
I mean, well, it's not Charlie's fault. The nose was so fragile at the time. But anyway, SWE Fury.
Yes.
I know that our local telebroadcast doesn't reach down to Austin yet. But there are some hopes that we can coordinate with other CW affiliates. And start bringing SWE Fury around not just Texas but around the country as far as they'll allow us to hook up with other affiliates. But as of right now, we're running on 4 different televised platforms.
I believe
I'll start with the local one first. We're on CW 33 here in the North Texas, Dallas area. And that's at, they say 2 a.m. on Saturday night. But it's really 2 a.m. Sunday morning.
Right. 2 a.m. Sunday morning, 2 a.m. Central.
Yes. Yes, Central. I think they're following the Nigel Rabid school of when to clock new days. It's when you've gone to sleep, then the new day can begin. So that's where I think they're getting that logic. It's never worked for me, and we do that every Saturday night, Sunday morning, 2 a.m. Central, and then we've got. Let's go with the first ones to have hooked up with us, the lovely folks over at Right Now TV. The lovely folks at Right Now TV, they have us airing 4 times a week on Right Now TV. And Right Now TV is not just it's a cable affiliate, so it's anywhere in the nation that gets Right Now TV, you will be able to get SWE Fury. And we air at 10 p.m. Central Time on Mondays and Thursdays, and then 9 p.m. Central on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
Now, the nice thing about Right Now TV is Right Now TV is also available on Roku. So if you've got a Roku box or a Roku television, you can download the app and you can watch it. And as you watch it, you go, oh, there's that lovely British man. And yes, that James Beard fellow is a villain. Just listen to all the mean things he does. And then there's the Action Channel. On the Action Channel, you can watch us 2 times during the week. And that is Saturday at 9 p.m. Central and Sunday at 7 p.m. Central. And the Action Channel is also a national cable affiliate, not in every single market, but they're working their way there. So, very, very impressed and pleased with those folks. And then finally, we are available. We're available internationally now. We are also on Fight TV. And Fight TV has the lovely quality of not only being able to catch new episodes are uploaded to Fight TV at 6 p.m. Central Time on Thursday nights. And on top of that, so because most of you are probably listening going, I don't want to watch it because I'm not gonna know what's going on. You can go and watch it from the very beginning. And watch it from episode 1, because Fight TV, much like all of the other digital cable services that are out there today, or all the digital television subscriptions like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and all of these wonderful things, you can go ahead and watch all of our back catalog. It's not huge right now because literally we just started filming for television regularly in January. And we got that all set. We were all set to do recordings in March, and then people said, "Oh, we're going to shut down everything."
Yes.
And so we all went, "Oh,
Ooh.
Well, all right."
Well, hopefully you get back to it, and I hope you and James find some sort of middle ground, because I love James to death, just like I love you to death, and I want to see you two play nice together.
Oh, I can play nice. I have to. He's in charge, and will violate the rules to make sure that I have to do what he says. It's what he's done to poor Brent McKenzie. Brent McKenzie, he punches people. That's his thing. I mean, he does other things really well.
He does.
I know from personal experience.
He does. Brent McKenzie is fantastic wrestler.
Absolutely. I've taken that black hole slam that he does and had to be carried out both times he did it to me. Wanker. But don't
let him hear you. Don't let him hear you call him that. It might be a third black hole slam in your future.
Mr. McKenzie knows that I have the utmost respect for him. I'm still just a little bit bitter about the hospital visit that last time that we squared off. Yeah. Fractured ribs, concussions, those things make one bitter. But I am staunchly on Mr. McKenzie's side on this, because he's got this beautiful, beautiful right hook punch that he's got. And James Beard says no punching above the neck. No punching above the neck. It's now disallowed. And that happened because James Beard, outside of a competition, decided to antagonize Mr. McKenzie. And what happens when a little dog antagonizes a big dog? The big dog bites the little dog. And so Mr. Beard got a punch to the face, and now Rick McKenzie's not allowed to throw punches anymore. And I think that's a farce.
Well, I hope you find some way of working together, and remember, James is in charge, and he knows what he's doing. He's done this for a while.
I mean, he says he knows what he's doing. We just have to agree because he's in charge.
Okay, fine. Nigel Rabid, always an adventure and a pleasure talking to you, my friend. As I said, next time, as soon as this all blows over, we need to get together, throw back a few pints, and tell tall tales.
Yeah, and we do need to do this again sometimes, because I do need to tell you about the lovely things in Pakistan.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's incredibly exciting.
Yes, we need. Yeah, next time we'll talk Pakistan, talk pro wrestling Pakistan. I know you're heavily involved with that. He is Nigel Rabid. Catch him on SWE Fury. Catch him with the Pakistan Wrestling Federation. And catch him with Storytime with Nigel. Nigel, thank you so much.
Thank you, Stu.
Whenever I get to talk to Nigel Rabid, he is a fountain of information, sometimes fountain of misinformation, but nevertheless, always fun to talk to the leader of the Rabid Empire. By the way, what you just heard is about a fourth of the conversation we had. So the full conversation will be on the podcast version that'll go up on hornfm.com as well as your favorite podcast provider. So make sure you catch that. Make sure you catch them on SW Fury through their various platforms. We got more coming up next, including Thunder Rosa, the NWA Women's World Champion, at the top of the hour. You're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
This is the villain, Marty Scurll, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Go from one British gentleman to another British gentleman. And a proper villain, too. Actually, both of them are proper villains. Nigel Rabid and the villain, Marty Scurll.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of Nigel because he likes Manchester United. We all know that the real team is Manchester City, but I digress.
You take that up with him.
I've tried.
We mentioned Marty Scurll. Ring of Honor has started what they're calling the ROH Strong podcast, and it's available on their website, rohwrestling.com. And their first episode, ironically, is Marty Scurll. So check that out, rohwrestling.com. With his new deal with Ring of Honor. And I know he may even talk a little bit about, there's been the rumors that he may want to try and build some sort of relationship with All Elite Wrestling, which...
It seems like he would be the perfect guy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it's him. I mean, he was a member of the Elite. I guess technically still is, although he kind of says all his friends are dead, but...
He was
even on BTE 200.
Yeah,
or not. He was on 199 to preview 200.
Exactly. I was gonna say, look, aren't the Good Brothers still the Good Brothers, even if Carl and Anderson aren't in the Fed? Yeah, they are.
Well,
they're still...
actually, Anderson and Gallows are the Good Brothers.
Yeah.
They in fact, it was.
I'm sorry, the club.
The club is. I mean,
they're still,
honestly.
They're still all they're all boys.
And if you follow them on Twitter, they've changed back to their former Twitter handles.
Yeah.
Machine Gun KA, and I think it's just Luke Gallows or something.
I saw that Carl Anderson was trying to trademark the Sex Ferguson name.
Yes, saw that. Also, they've been tweeting a lot of pictures of them back in the Bullet Club days.
Yeah.
So. Which, hey, that would be really cool.
I mean, they were an awesome tag team in Japan, and obviously, but we already knew this was going to happen, and it's even suffered kind of with our boys.
The Viking Raiders?
Thank you. Because I was going to say War Machine. And I was like, well, they kind of tried the carpool karaoke thing a couple of days ago. And I wasn't sure where they were going with this, if they were really trying the comedic gimmick with them. They were saying that gimmick possibly was in the waiting for FTR.
Right. Yeah, they were talking about when they were talking about the revival being repackaged as a comedy gimmick, which that's part of the reason why they wanted out, because they don't want to be a comedy gimmick.
I don't think anybody wants to be a comedy gimmick
really.
necessarily. It's because I don't have a problem with comedy gimmicks, because I want to preface that, because I understand there's room for wrestling and very many eclectic types of professional wrestling that people will enjoy in comedy when done really well. And I know it's subjective. It's entertaining. But the WWE, I'm not sure if it just stems from Vince or maybe the writing team is trying to please what Vince used to like, or maybe that's still how it works. But it's not grade A humor. It's kind of like the C- stuff. Very rarely does it hit. Now, when it hits, it's good. But
when it hits, it good. Yeah, you're right, and that's David LaGreca was talking earlier. There are times when Triple H can be really funny.
Oh yeah, there's times he's hilarious.
And like I said, the attempt between him and Shawn Michaels, you could tell the attempt, the effort was there, and I appreciated that. It was just. Vince, to me, seemed, when he came out, it just seemed like he was rambling.
Is it because...
I don't know. I mean, maybe I didn't get it.
You keep on going back to Vince, and I'm wondering if our listeners think this, too, is that did Vince look human for the first time?
I don't know.
I grew up watching Vince McMahon as the broadcaster, the WWF, in his prim and proper suits with the big old shoulder pads, with that deep, booming voice welcoming you to SummerSlam.
Right.
And bringing that energy all the time. And then I remember the Vince McMahon who became Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
And at 60 plus, taking bumps that no man would be taking, especially a guy who owns $1 billion company.
Right.
And it seems like finally he has to be, in his 70s now?
Oh, easily.
Yeah. Kind of starting to catch up with him. And I think we saw a little bit of that humanity that has been shielded from the rest of the WWE universe, because Vince is kind of like a demigod. You know, you never see him unkempt. You never see him off the ball, except for the time he blew his quads.
Right. So I don't know. And we'll talk about this later in the show, as well as everything else that happened on SmackDown and Raw. Real quick, again, David LaGreca talking about the NFL draft. So, of course, had the NFL draft, which, by the way, Cowboys, I say a draft easily. I mean, CeeDee Lamb.
Jerry should draft from the yacht every year.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
It was a good draft.
It was a fantastic draft.
I mean, but we'll come to see what happens if those players, end up performing. It's not always a guarantee.
Yeah. Letter grade for a draft means nothing come football season. So,
but it was good to see that the approach was taken the way that they did it.
Yeah, I love
Take the best player available.
So anyway, after the draft is over, the usual, undrafted free agents sign. We had several Longhorns, Malcolm Roach most notably. Well, there's a running back out of Kennesaw State named Bronson Rechsteiner that signed an undrafted free agent deal with the Baltimore Ravens. John Harbaugh, by the way, also had a great draft. Drafted Devin Duvernay in the third round, the great wide receiver from Texas. Well, anyway, so he got this running back out of Kennesaw State, Bronson Rechsteiner. His father, in case you didn't know, one half of one of the greatest tag teams ever, the dog-faced gremlin, Rick Steiner, is his daddy.
Yeah, the look is uncanny. Like, if you've seen the pictures side by side, it's like, that's his son. They're built pretty much the same way. I kind of wonder if he doesn't have a fruitful NFL career, if the squared circle wouldn't be too far away, because, I mean, to have that Steiner genetics and then to be related, not just to be the son of Rick Steiner, but to be the nephew of the big bad booty daddy,
of Scott,
the genetic freak. I mean, come on, this guy seems like he would be perfect for the world of professional wrestling.
Rick and Scott were both great amateur wrestlers at University of Michigan, so you got to imagine, if this doesn't work out, maybe he does got a shot in pro wrestling. We'll see.
Because he's a fullback. We have to be realistic. It's a
right.
fullback, not
fullbacks,
exactly a position.
It's not a glamour position in the league right now. Not like back in the days of Daryl Johnson and those guys.
It's just like the length of a career they might have, especially just being a human battery ram, so to speak.
Yeah. So, well, as we said, this is a super show because we just finished taking over Fight Night's hour. But coming up after this quick timeout, we've got a second hour coming up, our usual hour. And to start that hour, we're going to talk to the current NWA Women's World Champion. Thunder Rosa will join us next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
Hey, you guys, this is six-time WWE Women's Champion and country music recording artist Mickie James, and you're listening to the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, second hour of this super show, Fight Night Takeover, whatever. Actually, we're in our natural hour.
This is when we usually come on.
Yeah, so I guess can't
feels like home.
Fight Night. Feels like home. I just heard from one former women's world champion. Now we get to talk to the current NWA women's world champion. Joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline, none other than one of our absolute favorites, Thunder Rosa. How are you?
I am good. Sitting on my table, doing work. It seems like at night that's when I'm the most prolific and actually focused.
Really?
So
okay.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know why. Like in the mornings, I have to exercise. If I don't exercise, I'll be mad all day. Like all day.
So what are you doing to
It's
exercise during this whole lockdown situation?
Exercise outside. There's nobody exercising outside. I mean, the CDC says that we are allowed and we should go outside to exercise. Of course, practicing social distancing. I've been practicing social distancing outside for the ever since we started, actually. I started working out inside, and then I was just like, you know what, I can't. And then I just started running. And I've been doing a lot of running. I used to run a lot before I was a professional athlete. That was one of the things that I did a lot, and I enjoy doing it. I didn't like doing it a lot more because I'm focusing for boxing and stuff.
Oh, okay. That's right. Combates Americas. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that you had the cage fights.
That's
but
right.
I have to ask, beyond the running, what have you been doing to? I know how wrestlers are. Everybody was all panicky without being able to get into a gym. Did you try to supplement that by using some weights around the house, or just trying to find some heavy stuff to lift?
No, I didn't buy weights. First of all, because I have other things that take more priority than buying weights. You can use your body weight, Mm-hmm. And then I bought some bands, though. Those have been pretty good. And some of my trainers in Mexico, they've been posting videos on how to use them while you're doing certain exercises, because you still put in resistance. So I've been using a lot of that, and just doing a lot of reps in terms of like push-ups, squats, lunges, abs. Just focusing a lot of that, and we'll see. I mean, if they open the gym in May, cool. If they don't, I'm just going to keep training, honestly. I mean, honestly, if you want to get in shape, you don't need a gym. You just go out and do what you need to do. There's so many. You see the prisoners, it's a terrible, terrible example to use, but they don't have weights. And a lot of prisons, they took the weights out. So what do they use? They use their own body, and they use, gallons of water or whatever they can make, and then they use that, So I think that we tend to make excuses for ourselves a lot of the times. Oh man, I don't have this, I don't have that. And then one of my friends, he actually invited me to this group called Camp Gladiators or stuff like that. They have virtual workouts every day, and you can pick anyone pretty much all over the country. So they start from like 5 a.m. to like 8 o'clock at night, and you're working with a group of people on Zoom. And the workouts are really good, actually. I was surprised. So that's what I've been doing, and I've been focusing a lot on boxing, on striking. So I've been working on a new thing for that, and it's been helping me a lot. It's helping me focus. I mean, in terms of wrestling, I can't really be wrestling people right now, so I just watch it on YouTube and be like, man, I miss being in the ring. I miss being in the mat.
I bet.
But
I bet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do miss it.
Let me ask you this. So, it was end of January. You defeated Allison Kay, became the women's world champion. Has it sunk in yet that you are holding not only the most historic women's world championship, but one that is considered a world title, that you're holding the same belt as Susan Tex Green, who we've talked to, who is a Hall of Famer. You're held in the same belt as a Debbie Combs and Santana Garrett and Jazz. How much of that have you grasped yet?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, it's been a while now. I think I've talked about this many times already. And it is very unfortunate that it happened during this year. The same one, I won my first title ever internationally in Japan, and I'm still an international Tokyo Joshi Princess champion. And then I can't defend my championship, I'm like, oh, but it's in the midst of the ridiculousness and all this crazy new life that we're living, I'm happy that I'm holding these titles and making history. My name will be in the history books of wrestling as the first Mexican-born wrestler to hold this championship. And once everything clears and we're safe to wrestle, I'm very, very looking forward to it because, like I said, I always been a fighter and a warrior, and obstacles of different shapes and forms have come in my life and my career, and I guess it's this is one that everybody's dealing with. But once I'm allowed to wrestle, I'm gonna start doing some cool stuff with it.
Yeah, obviously we're all looking forward to that time when you and all wrestlers can get back in the ring and we can watch you, perform the incredible athleticism that all of you possess. Let me ask you this. So, besides working out, what else is occupying your time during this pandemic?
I've been doing a lot of YouTube content, running around. Honestly, a lot of my stuff hasn't changed very much. I stay with the same, or try to stay with the same schedule, as far as contenting, contacting people, creating things for myself, looking to see what's next, because again, we don't know what's going to happen in the next couple months, and I still need to make some, considerable money, and I'm working on designs for new merchandise, on ideas for new videos for my YouTube page, working on my Facebook page too, which I haven't started, and I need to get my ass to work on it because I can monetize my Facebook, and I didn't even know that. So it's a humongous tool because a lot of my fans that I have been neglecting are Latino fans and are the ones that are my biggest following in Facebook. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. I mean, I know that if it's not on wrestling, or if it's not the money, if it's not in wrestling or in MMA, I have a future on TV. I mean, it's something that I always want to do, and I love interviewing people. I love being in front of the camera. I'm not shy. So I've been working on my interviewing skills in English and in Spanish. And also just being, an entertainer and looking to see different things. So that's what I've been doing mostly, and decorating my house, doing little projects here and there, yelling at my son, definitely, kissing Drago every morning, cooking for Brian 50,000 times a day when I have time. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of that.
All right, what's Brian's favorite? Brian, your husband, of course. What's his favorite dish that you make?
He can eat a spaghetti every day.
He could eat spaghetti. See, and that's kind of funny because I just had spaghetti for dinner tonight, and I do okay. Now, do you make your own sauce?
When I have all the ingredients, I do, but it takes forever.
Right.
So no, I haven't done it in a while. But when I was in Oakland, it was Holly that used to live with us, she used to love when I used to make spaghetti because I made the sauce from like scratch.
Oh wow!
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're gonna have
I love it. It's fun.
We're going to have a little bit of your spaghetti sauce one of these days. I got to try it, see what I can do to make mine. I make mine from scratch as well, but mine's not near as complicated, I'm sure.
Well, you were telling us beforehand that you had some things in the work. Is it going to be a Thunder Rosa cooking book?
Man, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Maybe, you know what, I should, that's a really good idea. I don't know. I need to start looking at healthy recipes to
mean, if you got spaghetti in the bag already, I'm sure, like, you have. I remember the time that you came over to interview and we kind of had a chance to chat with you, and I encourage people to kind of follow your story because we got to see you kind of, you know, where you were with Lucha Underground, but we got to see the rest of the story with really up close, and it's been really great to follow your journey. But you're a woman of many, many talents. So I would think that it would be quite impressive to see what else you have in your repertoire, at least when it comes to cooking.
I mean, I need to start doing more of that stuff. I mean, I love cooking. I think I should be looking more at like YouTube videos and stuff to like learn other techniques, and then like, okay, I can put this on my recipe. I can do this. I can do that. I mean, I love that. Cooking shows are one of my favorite things. Even since I was a little girl, I used to watch them, and I used to see my mom, like, she was like, before like the recipes were online, she was like with her notebook just like writing everything down. It was like really funny. I was like, Mom, why are you doing that? And now I'm like, I just go, you know, on Google and like search all the stuff.
I'm looking at your YouTube page, youtube.com, search Thunder Rosa, and there you are. Several videos. You do everything from, you reviewed Tiger King to you got some matches. You got 3 or 4 videos involving our good friend and your good friend Joe Galli, who does the commentary for NWA, works in TV in San Antonio. So there we go. Maybe we may need a Cooking with Thunder Rosa video or 2 or 10.
Yeah, it probably is going to be like a series of things. I might just go with Joe's. Joe's has a better kitchen than I do. I just go and cook at his kitchen.
Well, he's making that big TV money, so you know.
Yeah, so I'll just have him like do commentary because he's hilarious. If you guys got to see the aerobics with Thunder Rosa and Joe Galli.
Yes.
Oh my god, he is. I couldn't hold a straight face. He's just like doing the stupidest things that you can imagine. I mean, he's a really, really fun guy to work with.
He's a great guy. Been able to talk to him several times, and such a great person. I see the video. Joe Galli joins Thunder Rosa for a sexy aerobics workout. That right there, that should garner like 50,000 views just reading the title alone.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Absolutely. Talk with Thunder Rosa here on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
I will say that I saw you on Twitter, though. You posted that picture of you in the jumper, and you were like, oh, they always don't fit. I was like, that one looked perfect on you, though. It was a great look.
Yeah. I have a lot of them, but it's just like the problem is they're so small. Like when I like bend down, it's just like my son almost got a heart attack. He'd be like, you can't be wearing that.
Well, okay, now
I'm not going to take you anywhere. You can't go to Walmart like that. I was like, all right.
And how old is your son?
They're about to be 15.
Yeah, so he's at that age where, he loves mom, but mom can embarrass him really easily.
Well, like I guess it's like very embarrassing. I mean,
yeah,
I'm Thunder Rosa. Like he needs to get used to it.
Yeah, you may be the NWA Women's World Champion, but you're embarrassing mom. You're embarrassing him, mom. So you have to be careful about that. By the way, you follow Thunder Rosa on Twitter at Thunder Rosa 22. As she mentioned, the NWA Women's World Champion, the Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling International Princess Champion. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
All right, good. I'm getting there.
You were telling us that you were working on your striking a little earlier. Are you having any plans of returning to the cage anytime soon? Well, obviously, once things get kind of back to normal relevance.
Normal. I mean, it all depends on the company, like what they want, and like, because usually they're like, "Hey, you're ready for our next fight," and I'm like, I mean, probably because of like the situation and how much time we have, like a lot of us have taken. I will say until like it will be like around the same time that I did it last year. November. So I really want to feel ready. You know, like, I mean, I feel like I'm getting way better than when I was when I, step in the cage the first time, because I know how it feels. I've been in the cage a lot more. I've been working on my ground game, on my stand-up game, and I really want to look like confident. Like, I want to show that. I feel like I was very timid, and I was kind of like, all right, I'm just, I'm not gonna get. I honestly didn't feel like I had a full plan and a vision on how I was gonna finish my opponent.
Yeah.
On the first one, because I was just like, man, let's do this. Let's do this. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I'm gonna finish.
Let me ask you this: mindset wise, I mean, obviously NWA Women's Champion. How can you explain to us and the listeners your mindset going and the difference of your mindset stepping into that cage as opposed into the squared circle?
Oh, it is completely different. You don't know what's going to happen. You can come with a total set up plan from A to Z, and then on round 1, minute 2, you can be done. Either she finishes you or you finish her. So it's 50-50. You never know. I think it has happened to the best of the best. But you come with a killer mentality. You have to. When you step in, you have to come with a killer mentality. Otherwise, you shouldn't even step in the ring or in the cage.
How do you find that mentality? Do you just think back? Do you go in with a preconceived rage, kind of like Mike Tyson used to do it back in the day when he would step in to fight? Or is it more of a reserved aggression that you're still kind of analytically looking at this and you're still trying to focus and stay in the moment, but maybe you don't kind of take yourself out of body, so to speak?
I think it's, for me right now, it's finding I guess it's just fighting myself in a way, and fighting my doubts, and fighting my all the times that I've been, told no and told that I'm not gonna make it, and then preparing now for my next fight, because I need to win this. I have a lot to prove. Not to anybody, but for myself, that I can do this, and I was born to be a fighter. I was born to be a warrior, and yeah, there's a lot of sit up rage, and there's a couple people that I really, really hate, and I wish I could punch them in the face, but I can't. So I just put that face in there and be like, all right, game on. So yeah, I mean, I've been using anything and everything possible, but like I said, I really have a really, really fun time training. It's been really, really fun training and just finding your strengths, because there's so many things that you think that you're never going to be able to do or accomplish. And fighting is just such an amazing journey, because you can, you learn so much from your body, from the fighting mentality and the mantra that you have to have, and within years, you start finding, your fighting style and yourself.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, as much as we've seen the aggression that you have in a wrestling ring, I can only imagine, and it scares me a little bit to think the kind of aggression you would have inside an MMA cage. And I fear for whatever opponent faces you next in that cage. So we're talking with Thunder Rosa. Before I let you go, I wanted to get your thoughts. Last week, the NWA on their YouTube channel interviewed the first interview of Kamille, and I know she's got designs on, coming after not only Allison Kay but you, and coming after your title. You heard her comments in that interview. How do you respond?
Where do you want me to start?
Just start with how she wants to end all of you.
No, I mean, listen, man. I'm gonna talk about the women's roster first, and then I'm gonna talk about myself.
Take us down the scroll, Thunder.
If you want to finish the women's division, first of all, I don't think she has the accolades that Melina has. She was a WWE champion multiple times. She's traveled all over the world and wrestled pretty much absolutely everybody. Allison Kay. She's also been all over the world in many different promotions. She has tons of experience as a pro wrestler. I'm not talking about all the sports that she talked about before. She says that she excels in all of them, blah, blah, blah. But we're talking about pro wrestling. And I'm only, not in with Allison, she not only has experience in pro wrestling, she's also an amateur fighter. Okay? Then I'm going to talk about myself now. I pretty much worked in every single promotion with exception of Impact and WWE as a professional wrestler. I traveled to Japan, Canada, Mexico. Here in the United States, I've trained pretty much in every single place that I travel. I've been wrestling for over 6 years. I'm also a pro MMA fighter. Yes, like they can put it on my face that I didn't win. It doesn't matter. I'm still training as a pro fighter. To get over Melina, Allison, all the women's roster, that to me is going to be very difficult. And I don't care how big she is. I don't care how scary she is. It's going to take a lot for her to take the championship. And yeah, some people have said on Twitter very ignorantly that I should just hand the championship. There's absolutely no way I will do something such dumb as that. Why again? Because I'm a boss-ass bitch. And for her to take over this shit, it's going to be over my dead body. Believe me that.
That's what I'm talking about. I feel you. I can't wait to see this fight. I know you. She says that she's going to come for you. I don't know.
Believe me.
She's going to have to earn it. She's going to have to go over every single woman in the women's division just as much as I did. Because shit is not given to us in NWA. Hell no. I have to fought to the T. Look at every single match I had. I fought to the T. I don't think and nobody's seen so much aggression in the ring until they saw me in the ring in NWA. I can tell you because I've seen so many championship matches. And the match that Allison and I had, it wasn't just your regular match. It was a real fight. Like when we both got in that ring, it was like feeling that we both got when we got into the cage. I can guarantee you that.
It was one of the most talked about fights. I mean, matches throughout Twitter that day that it took place. Everybody was talking about how good that match was. And
people still talking about it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know? It's like very few matches, very few female matches that you see like that unless you see them in Japan.
Yeah, I agree.
Because a lot of women are afraid of wrestling the way that we are wrestling. Mm-hmm. Because of, like, you know, you can get injured. You can get a black eye. You can get a busted lip. You know? There were punches, there was kicks, there was throws, there were power bombs, there was everything. We threw everything in there. And I'm not afraid of throwing in there. I'm not afraid of, like, wrestling guys that are 230 pounds, 400 pounds. I don't care. I don't care how tall she is. I don't care how successful she was in other sports. I'm talking about pro wrestling. She doesn't have the experience or the accolades that I have. And until she earns that, because I'm not going to give it, she needs to earn that spot. That's it. Plain and simple.
Look, I've been fortunate enough to call several of your matches around the Austin area, and I fear for any opponent that gets in the ring with you because you have shown the tenacity and the aggression and the power that you would expect from a world champion. She is Thunder Rosa. Catch her on Twitter at ThunderRosa22. Find her site, thunderrosa.net, and that's where people can buy your merchandise and everything, correct?
They can buy merchandise. They can request photos. Photos. They can request Skype phone calls. What else? There's a lot of services that I'm offering. It's just not your typical, like, go to my website, get my stuff, you know. All my stuff is packed by me. That has Drago's hair in it, so you know it's coming from my house.
Nice. Thunder Rosa, it is always a pleasure to talk to you. All the best to you. I look forward to seeing you live in a ring very soon.
And thank you for having me. And, you know, it was like, this is actually a premiere. I haven't talked about this. This is the first time somebody asked me this question about Kamille.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad we could break some news.
You got the real answer.
I like it.
You know, don't don't mess with Texas. Don't threat at me. Like, seriously.
That's
you know?
right. That's right. That's
And
why. That's why I wanted to ask you, because I knew I'd get a genuine answer. Thunder Rosa, thanks so much.
Thank you.
I had a feeling that when I mentioned Kamille, she'd get fired up.
Just a little bit. Passion.
Yeah. Oh,
love it.
Yeah, she's an absolute treasure. The NWA Women's World Champion, Thunder Rosa. When we come back, we got more Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. You're listening to The Horn.
This is James J. Dillon, the leader of the original Four Horsemen and the holder of 2 Hall of Fame rings, and you're listening to the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons.
Great theme song ever.
One of them. Definitely one of them. Only because it's arguably the greatest faction. I mean,
but even without the Horseman name attached to it, I just think it's a good sounding song, especially for when they were created.
It is a good sounding song, but then when you put it with the Horseman, because you hear the horse gallop and everything, I had a chance, and it's kind of ironic because 2 years ago, I had a chance to talk to him. That's where I got that liner at the Colorful Alley Club reunion 2 years ago in Las Vegas. And, to think of all the factions that we have now, even the ones that have come, I will say without reservation, you don't have an NWO or a D-Generation X unless you have the Four Horsemen.
Oh, let's go back a little bit further. I mean, you've been watching this great sport for many, many years. I mean, you don't have Paul East, Dangerous Alliance. Right. You don't get what was Kevin Sullivan's in WCW?
Dungeon of Doom.
Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah.
You don't get Enterprise. WCCW. What she had a faction. I can't remember her name. Was it? The Stud Stable.
Stud Stable, yeah,
right?
Yeah,
and then,
that was
Missy Hyatt's International.
Missy Hyatt International. Well, that was Eddie Gilbert International.
Yeah.
Or Hot Stuff International.
Yeah.
Hot Stuff
but I mean, like all these things are a derivative because they saw in the Freebirds to some extent. But all these things are like a derivative of the Horsemen.
Right, the Four Horsemen.
And and very few factions were able to kind of catch a similar level. Impact players.
Think just in terms of titles. And we just saw the Undisputed Era with all the main titles in NXT. There's been only one other, and that was the Horsemen, when they held every major title in the NWA. You had Ric Flair as the world champion. You had Barry Windham as the United States champion, and then Tully Arn as the world tag team champions. And just like with the Undisputed Era, the Horsemen held those titles for a really good run.
I was going to say, well, with TV, changes come a little bit sooner, and they were able to have lengthy runs just because, they were doing house shows and stuff. But that's more, a little different, but understandable because it's just like that same success. You can see when you have really good, high-quality, talented workers that you can achieve something similar to what the Horsemen have been doing. And the formula works if you have the right people in place.
It does. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you don't have... it's kind of funny because a lot of people will talk about the best version of the Four Horsemen, and a lot of people will say the original, which was Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair. But I will dare say you don't see that kind of success if Ole Anderson's still with the Horsemen.
Oh, definitely not. I think Wyndham was really one of the big linchpins because the guy could just go.
You're right. He was, in fact, there was the time when he and Dustin were tag team partner. I think they were tag champs at one time or another. But
we'll have to ask.
And a lot of it, because they were so similar, very tall, very lanky, a lot of power.
Second generation,
absolutely. Yeah, I was just about to say second generation. So it's interesting to think about, the days of the Horsemen. By the way, we mentioned Cauliflower Alley Club. They did reschedule. So this year's reunion will now take place September 21st through the 23rd, still at the Gold Coast Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. So if you are a member of the Cauliflower Alley Club, check that out. If you're not, consider joining. It's a really cool organization.
Did you just say hello and welcome to your newest brethren?
I have not, but yes, not only Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson,
yes,
David Arquette,
yes,
a new lifetime member. So we need to get David Arquette on because he's got that movie on the documentary on him restarting in pro wrestling, and it was supposed to show at South by Southwest. Of course,
you can watch it. You can watch it for free though on Amazon.
I think you can. Yes. So
the South by Southwest.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have Amazon Prime to watch it. You can watch it for free right now.
So
by just logging on.
We may have to see about getting David Arquette on.
You think he'll come on? I mean, can we get Courtney too? Just playing.
I think we'll just stick with David for now. Real quick, a few other things that happened in WWE this week. A surprise return, just because I didn't know why he was gone for so long. Jinder Mahal, Don't Hinder Gender, showed up on Raw with a haircut and renewed mean attitude.
Hey man, he's still on the payroll, so it's good to be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he didn't get cut, so congratulations just on that.
Yeah, and you're getting some TV time, which is nice. I still think that Asuka's probably been the most valuable member of the whole roster throughout this, because she's like what David was talking about earlier. She's really been one of the more entertaining aspects of the show for me.
There's there are times when her just ranting and raving in Japanese just kind of just grinds on me, but I get it.
I think she's trying to tell us in her own words that we should all try to better ourselves and learn some Japanese so we understand what she's saying. If Jericho did
I spent 2 months in Japan. I know how to order a beer and ask for where the bathroom is, so I'm good. But besides, I knew Russian back in the day. So
yeah, but dude, that's like 1985. We're like in 2020. You don't even have to know it anymore. It's time to up our game. We have to make changes. We always have to be evolving.
Who knows what those pesky Russians will do.
What happened to Koloff?
What do you mean?
Remember, like after the end of the Cold War, I mean, he became a good guy, right?
He did. Yeah, Nikita Koloff, a friend of our show. By the way, shout out to our friend Jeremiah Wilkerson. He does a show called podcast called Shatterglass Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Had Nikita Koloff on. Did a fantastic job. It was good. He was good. I think we got mentioned during the interview. We may have to pull that out of the vault one of these days. It was a fun chat.
Oh, sure. I mean, like
I still love I always laugh at the story I told him about back in 80. This would have been 88. I was still in the Army. I was in Hawaii, and Jim Crockett Promotions, it was still NWA. Jim Crockett Promotions came to, I believe it's the Blaisdell Center in Honolulu.
Wow.
And in fact, I showed Dustin the last time he was over here. I showed Dustin pictures because his daddy, Dusty, the American Dream, was defending the United States Championship against Tully Blanchard. And I had pictures of him.
But like
with
you
that
took
belt.
Pictures?
I took yes. Now it was not phone pictures. It was
it had to be like on the camera with film and stuff. And you had to get them developed. Or did you do that on the base? Or it's like there's so many questions now.
Took them to the PX, had them developed.
What's a PX?
Post exchange. That's kind of like our Target.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but they used to offer film development.
Yeah, sure.
Crazy.
So the main event of that card was Ric Flair defending the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against Nikita Koloff. And so after the show, and then Flair won. So after the show, I am like desperate to find Nikita Koloff because, again, I knew Russian.
Yeah.
So I wanted to test out my Russian, because then it was still real to me. I had no clue that he was actually just from Minnesota.
Well, nobody did.
Yeah. So I told him that story. In fact, the first time we met was WrestleCon in Orlando, leading up to WrestleMania 33, and I told him that story, and he chuckled. Yeah, you would have found out really quick that you had much better Russian than me. I said, yeah, you're probably right, but it was still really cool. And he was a wonderful interview, and such a fine man that does a lot of good work. But yeah, Nikita Koloff. I mean, that the Russian sickle that clothesline he would throw with just absolute fierceness. So cool, so good. It seems like every time you think Apollo Crews is going to catch some sort of good win, good vibe, then something else happens. And so Apollo Crews, he was challenging Andrade for the United States Championship, speaking of United States titles, and injures his knee. Now, we're pretty sure this is just storyline. But because of that, not only did he not win the U.S. title, he's now out of the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Which is surprising because a person of his ability in the ring would be perfect for a Money in the Bank.
I have been championing his cause ever since he made it to the main roster. I think he's got a fantastic look. He can work in the ring really well. And we're starting to finally see some personality from him.
That's beyond just smiling.
And then and then this. And I don't know where they've got it. I don't know where they're taking the story. I was hoping at least he could win the U.S. title. And it seemed like they were putting it up like that. But we'll see what happens. So right now, as it stands, you still have Aleister Black, Rey Mysterio, King Corbin, and Daniel Bryan that are in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Friday night on SmackDown, it will be Otis taking on Dolph Ziggler in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. And I don't know what they'll do to fill Apollo Crews' slot because that'd be another Raw wrestler. So I don't know if they find a way to put Andrade in there or if somebody else takes his spot. We'll see.
It's just going to be Crews under a mask.
It's maybe
a little bit Knight Rider. No,
yeah, who knows?
Let me ask you this though. So, if the United States title is technically speaking the second highest title
on Raw,
isn't that a good sign for Crews that he's working at the top of the mid card? At least in that case, or you think this is not going to sustain?
I don't see that's the thing because again, we know that they're only using the entire roster is not on Raw or SmackDown.
Well, nobody.
It's mainly those that either live in Florida or can make it there pretty easily.
Exactly. So they're kind of running, and we complained, and I know they cut a few people now, right? A good amount, but they had a very lengthy.
They still had,
roster
still have
to choose
both
from.
sides. They have abundant rosters.
So in this case, it actually panned out that hey, they have a lot of talent that they can throw out there and try to make the best of it. And all these people obviously train. They can go. They know what it takes to work at this type of level. Granted, the situation's a little different without the crowd, and as a fan, it makes it a little hard to watch, understandably. But from what I'm seeing, it looks like Crews is finally kind of getting, like you mentioned, a little bit more of a look. But it seems like if he's working with Andrade, I don't see Andrade dipping below the mid card. If anything, I see him going beyond at some point because he's being groomed to be one of the bigger faces of the company going forward.
Yeah, you would think he could be, starting to hit that main event picture, the world title picture.
I've always been a fan of his work.
Yeah,
even in Mexico.
Absolutely. He's a fantastic wrestler. You got to think that Jinder Mahal coming back, they're probably going to set up some sort of storyline with him and Drew McIntyre. Maybe play on their old 3MB history.
That's going to be interesting how much they want to go back to that. Just because, for the lack of a better term I can think of, it was kind of like a joke thing to have a 3MB thing.
It was, but at the same time, they made it work.
They did
to some extent.
They did. But I'm saying, like, okay, now this is your champion. He's supposed to be a badass. He has a different name from that time ago. Do they really want to bring up? I know the true diehard fan is going to be able to make that connection, but they don't really ever look at the true diehard fan.
No, of course.
Do they want to make that connection? Is going to be the question.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it will come up. I'm not sure. It may not be like the overriding thing. I'm sure that it will come up somewhere.
So you don't think
that at one time they were tag partners.
I don't foresee them teaming up in any juncture in the ring or him coming out to save him or vice versa.
No, this is going to Jinder will eventually be set up to face Drew McIntyre, probably for the world title.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking more like backstage segment. Both of them are walking past each other, and then they kind of do like a little dance routine step just to kind of give like a little nudge and wink to like, oh yeah, I remember those days. But next time I see you, I kill you.
That would be wonderful. WWE won't do that. They won't do that because they're putting Jinder as a heel, and Drew's the babyface right now.
But in order to enact that animosity, it has to have a start.
Oh, they probably will. They'll find some way to start it, whether it's just Jinder wanting the title or whatever. It's WWE. They'll create something out of nothing all the time.
That's fine, but that memeans putting Jinder back into the main event picture, well beyond others that are well more deserving at this juncture.
I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just saying
so it's all Friday night. This is what we see. I'm going to be Stu. You gave him ideas.
Yeah. Well, Monday night because this is Raw. Raw's on Monday.
They might show it on Friday. There's no rules with the WWE.
No,
they do what they want.
Fox might have. Remember, WWE's not the only one that says anything. Fox might have something to say about it.
Yeah, but
or for that matter, NBC Universal might have something to say about it.
Yeah, but there's no like definitive roster split. You know this.
Well, I know, but still.
So yeah, you can still show up.
So
they need to fill time too.
That's true. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, Impact Wrestling had the second night of Rebellion. We'll recap that and wrap things up on this 2-hour super takeover show. You're listening Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
This is my calling. I've got to answer.
This is Big Michael Elgin, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons. So
before you get into that, can I ask you, how excited are you for the upcoming Dark Side of the Ring featuring David Schultz? Because this is something I didn't get to live through the first time myself.
Well, as this airs, it would have aired yesterday.
Yeah,
but yes, I'm excited to see it because I remember the 2020 segment when it happened, and John Stossel, just an acclaimed reporter, has worked for ABC forever and ever.
Acclaimed reporter, I know, but you said the word work, and if anybody was working anybody, it was the reporter who was working everybody that day. Filed that huge lawsuit.
Made
all that money.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what they present because it was one slap, and of course the episode's called "The Slap Heard Round the World."
Well, he gets him a couple of times.
Right.
But there's one that he claims that perforated his eardrum or separated his. I don't recall.
Perforated eardrum. Yeah. So I will say, I think it's again. If you're listening to this on the Horn, I'm sure it was a fantastic episode. I'm about to watch it as soon as we're finished recording.
So far out of season 2, which one's been your favorite thus far? Which episode?
Oh boy, it's hard to say. I mean, Benoit, obviously. I would say Benoit just because of
Benoit's.
That's one that hadn't been addressed very much.
It's really emotional.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was the best one from this season, though. The New Jack one I found extremely...
New Jack was really good. They've all been really good. Look, they're all really good.
I mean, they're all really good, but I felt like that one has really been the standout thus far. Along with the Dino Bravo one, because I didn't really know much about him.
That's true.
And that was really interesting to find out. Like, oh, wow, he was a huge star in Canada. No wonder they signed him. I didn't have a clue where he came from.
Yeah, the Dino Bravo one, that's definitely what am I thinking? That's a story that nobody knew, especially his ties to the mafia and all that good stuff. I mean, that just out of the blue.
It kind of had his life had the ending of what a lot of people had presumed that Gino's life had taken. The last
Gino Hernandez.
Yeah, the last episode of season 1.
Not Gino Medina. let's clarify. Yeah, Gino Hernandez, the handsome half breed. That one was more a drug drug thing than anything. So, but yeah, and they've got some coming up. The rebirth of the UWF under Herb Abrams.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
That'll be a good one. They've got one on the Road Warriors. That I'm really interested in that one. And then they're supposed to finish up the season with Owen Hart, with the death of Owen Hart.
So maybe the best for last. It's possible.
Yeah, could be. Real quick, Impact Wrestling had the second night of their Rebellion event air on Access TV. This one, it seemed a little more scattered, I guess is the best way to put it, than night one. There wasn't any titles on the line. There was supposed to be the main event of Tessa Blanchard defending the Impact Wrestling World Championship against Michael Elgin and Eddie Edwards in a triple threat.
Yeah.
Well, Tessa is stuck in Mexico, where she lives now. Eddie Edwards is stuck in Boston, so Michael Elgin by himself. Basically what happened was, and by the way, before that, they had a fatal four-way match. Dashing Chris Bay won. He was in the ring with Suicide, Rohit Raju, and Trey from the Rascals. You also had Joseph P. Ryan, the former Joey Ryan, defeat Cousin Jake with a little grab of the tights. Rosemary defeating Havoc in a Full Metal Mayhem match. Then this thing where Michael Elgin comes out, basically he calls for the ref and demands that Dave Penzer, the legendary ring announcer, announce him as the new Impact World Champion. All of a sudden, here comes Moose with the TNA World Heavyweight Championship belt that apparently he stole, I guess, from Hernandez when they did that TNA throwback special.
Weeks ago. See, so, good continuity there. Though.
So Moose comes out, decides he wants to challenge Elgin, and then here comes Hernandez, the former TNA World Champion, and he decides he wants them both. So they end up doing a triple threat match. In the end, Moose defeats Michael Elgin. I believe he pinned Hernandez. But anyway, so you would think that maybe Moose is in line for a shot at Tessa's title.
That's what it seems like at this juncture. I mean, granted, give credit to Impact for giving you a main event that they had promised to be a triple threat. Triple threat. Yeah. Regardless of the fact that it wasn't the competitors that were originally scheduled, because as we've seen on all wrestling cards
subject to change. Yeah.
But hey, they still gave you a triple threat match for a title,
and it was good. And not to mention, it's kind of cool seeing that belt again. It's
a good looking belt.
I like the old TNA title belt. So. Anyway, that's Rebellion. We'll see. I know they had taped TV to go after this. It's no fans. Obviously, they did the tapings, I believe, in Nashville. So we'll see where those carry storylines down the road. I'll be interested to see how they navigate with certain wrestlers and every company. WWE, AEW. They're all dealing with certain wrestlers that are unavailable because of the pandemic and travel restrictions and all that. Like, we haven't seen the Lucha Brothers in AEW in quite some time. Well, they live in Mexico. They can't come over. So we'll see how they navigate that. So as we will with everything. What a show. 2 hours flying by fast.
Yeah, it goes way faster than it does the 3 hours on Raw.
That's true. Well, paint drying goes faster than 3 hours on Raw. We joke all the time, but actually, thanks to Eddie and Jordan from Fight Night ATX for letting us take over their hour to give you all this great wrestling talk.
That's why I wanted to challenge to Dave LaGreca. I was like, they should pull, because I haven't got a chance to talk to Bully Ray before, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Tommy Dreamer. I got a chance to talk to Mark because he was on it with us
a couple weeks
ago. So
we've
had 2 out of the 4, and I was like, should we have like a Survivor Series matchup where we pull another 2 guys? Maybe we can get Dustin and somebody else, and then we can go take our 4 against their 4?
No.
Not in the ring, but on the radio. You wouldn't want to do
that? We'll see. That would be kind of fun. I know Bully Ray does not do other shows. Tommy Dreamer is busy. So
busy doing what? right now.
Making silly pictures.
I was like, if we could get this done within the next couple of weeks before everything opens up, I mean, that would be the perfect time, right?
Would be. That'll do it for this week's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. You can follow Justin Smash Simmons on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at The Smash Simmons. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. That's STEWMYRICK. Follow the show on Twitter at SGTWATX. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We are proud to be the official broadcast partner of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and we're proud to be part of the great lineup you hear every day. On the flagship station for the Texas Longhorns, we are The Horn. Catch us Wednesday nights, usually at 9 p.m. Central on The Horn, 104.9, 101.9, and AM 1260, or catch us anytime on demand by going to hornfm.com and click on the On Air tab, or by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast platform. Our thanks to Busted Open's Dave LaGreca, Nigel Rabid, and the NWA Women's World Champion Thunder Rosa for joining us, and our thanks to you for giving us a little bit of your time tonight. For Justin, I'm Stu, and we will see you as soon as this craziness is over at the matches.
Goodbye and good night.